This is episode 312 of the Super League Pod, and it's a special treat in more ways than one as we talk about the lowest high tackle and the least aggressive running in of the season. Plus, whose year is it? Feeling safe at games and more World Cup fallout. Strap in. It's SLP time. Hello, you lucky SLP listeners. This is your second show this week. I know we're treating you very special. Mark here to go through this week's shortened action. And as a late injury pull-out in the warm-up, Scoots has departed, and we've had to pull someone in off the extended bench, and it's a special guest appearance for Fat Boy Rob.
Good evening.
Welcome along. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you very much.
I mean, you haven't been able to watch any rugby since Wembley, so you might as well talk about some rugby.
I've been watching the lesser teams, the other teams that have been playing, but I'll be looking forward to getting down to Cass on Monday.
Well, shall I give you the privilege and honour of telling us about our sponsor?
Yep. Today's episode is sponsored by Rob's Toy Shop. It's the best toy shop on eBay. Any orders over £5, you can earn 5% cash back, and also 1% of your order value will go into the SLP coffers, or you can just send the full 6% to the SLP by putting SLP discount in the checkout. And we've got plenty of 2022 diaries at the moment. Christmas stuff is selling fast, and obviously we've got all the normal stuff for back to school. So get your send down there and support the sponsor.
Yes, definitely. I echo that completely. So what we've got coming up, it's a mini show for everyone tonight. I mean, famous last words. We always end up going longer than we intend. But we're just going to recap the round 16 games and a few selected bits of news from the last few days. Basically, so we avoid the double long show that 2 weeks worth of games and a week and a half's worth of news can sometimes cause us. So we're going to do a limited intro. Although actually, I'll touch a little bit more in this opening section than we were planning on doing. No other results. We're going to do all them next week. Not much of a wrap up, and then we'll be back later on next week to talk about the round 17 games and everything else that's happening this weekend in the world of rugby league. But Rob, last couple of weeks, we've been talking quite a lot about what was a fantastic day out for rugby league at Wembley. You were on the losing side of it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't a fantastic day out of rugby league. So how did you find your Wembley experience this year?
It was brilliant, to be honest. I know we lost. I'm still seething over that Roby try. As long as my arse points downwards, that wasn't a try. But in terms of the day, brilliant atmosphere, 4 sets of fans, loads of fans from other clubs. I never did see the final attendance, but 40,000 plus rugby league fans, all having a laugh, not a crossword between us. Wonderful sunny day. Great experience. Hopefully we'll be back next year.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and the Mark Percival knock on and Regan Grace jumping from touch didn't ruin everything about the day.
No, it didn't. I mean, to be honest, the one I'm seething the most about is the penalty that wasn't given before half time for the eye shot on Daniel Smith, because that would have put us 8 points up. But it's done now, isn't it? But it was still a great day. I think it was a great game as well. Great advertisement for rugby league.
It was. It's the kind of game we could put out there to people and say, if this is the first time you're watching rugby league because you had no other sport on that weekend, then surely you want to watch more.
Yep.
Good
It'd be better if we won, though.
The neutral wouldn't care. But great stuff, Rob. Right, what we're going to do then is we're going to have our traditional musical interlude and then get into the news. Rightio. So a few bits of news to pick up from when we were last with you earlier this week. We're not going to do every little thing that's been talked about, but the biggest story in rugby league, the one that every time I'm listening to BBC 5 Live or any sports bulletin on any news station, they're talking about rugby league, but not for necessarily a positive, Rob. But it's that the organisers have said the chances of Rugby League World Cup going ahead this year are 50-50, with a final decision expected in the coming days. So by the time you listen to this, they might have made that final decision. Australia and New Zealand pulled out of the event, of course, citing player welfare and safety concerns related to COVID-19. John Dutton, the chief executive of the tournament in England, says their withdrawal is irreversible. That means they ain't coming back. Following an emergency meeting of the board on Wednesday, Dutton said it will explore what appetite there is to go ahead as planned with the contest, which is scheduled to start on the 23rd of October. Dutton told BBC Sport the time is no longer on their side. The final decision about staging the tournament, which includes men's, women's and wheelchair competitions all together at the same time for the first time, will come in days, not weeks. Melbourne Storm and Queensland prop forward Christian Welsh, who's also the director of the Rugby League Players Association, says players were not consulted before the reigning champions Australia and New Zealand, who lifted the trophy in 2008, withdrew last week. Dutton said it's fundamental that players have a voice and a choice in what happens with the event. Talks with the players include informing them of extraordinary measures that have been undertaken to protect their well-being, while competing nations are being briefed so they can fully understand any new or developing issues that will prevent them travelling to England in October. Organisers have also confirmed they are in talks with the game's global governing body, International Rugby League, about replacement teams and the implications of Australia and New Zealand's absence. That means, are the sponsors going to go away, doesn't it? Dutton said the inclusion of an Indigenous Australian side and New Zealand Maori team are options absolutely being considered. The NRL clubs have today come out and fully supported the suspension of the tournament till next year. So yeah, we have got some really interesting insight that Neil Ormston, our friend over from the Rugby League Record Keepers Club, has sent us in, Rob, on this story. He said, thanks to the recent removals of restrictions, I was able to get a scoop into the real reason the Aussies and Kiwis withdrew from the World Cup. As a drunken Wigan fan told me at length, it's due to players like Josh Charnley kicking their opponents in the head. No wonder they don't want to come over, is the quote. He told me this with his arm around my shoulder as we walked over the car park after the game, without a hint of irony. If Neil bit his tongue, he does more than he does normally. If he managed to do that, he isn't one for people making ridiculous, oversimplified generalisations, isn't our friend Neil? But that's obviously not the reason, and we'll get to Josh Charnley's indiscretions
certainly not
later
the main
on.
reason.
But we talked quite a bit about this, me and David, about our disappointment of this last week. What's your feelings on this? And obviously we expect it's not going to happen, is it?
I'm not sure. I don't know whether. I mean, there's certainly no space in the calendar for it next year, because it clashes with the Football World Cup, which is November, I believe. In terms of did I play it without the Aussies and the Kiwis, I'm really not sure. I mean, in terms of tickets, I mean, I daren't buy a ticket for an away game because of COVID at the moment, because you don't know whether it's going to go on. So it's definitely going to have hurt the ticket sales. In terms of the NRL clubs backing it, what does that mean for the England players that are over there? Are they going to come across?
Well, they can't stop them, can they? They can't stop them because it's a internationally sanctioned tournament in a international window, so they can't stop them, but they can put pressure on them, can't they, through contract negotiations and things. So yeah.
I mean, if I were a betting man, I'd say it wouldn't go ahead. If it does go ahead, and England do win it, will anyone really care? Will anyone remember in 20, 30 years? I mean, 96 wasn't a full Australian team, was it? Due to Super League. So we could play it without them. But I'm not sure whether it's definitely damaged the World Cup already, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Even if they change their mind and say that they're coming now, it's affected ticket sales. It's made us look a bit of a laughing stock again. So I really don't know what the answer is.
No, like you say, it's hurt the brand of international rugby league hugely when other international sports are going on, and this one looks like it's not going to. We'll have, I'm sure soon we'll have a conclusion to this story, and then we'll have to ramp up and look forward to the tournament if it's going to be this year or next year in whatever way we can. Someone who did want the tournament to go ahead has come out and said that is the Tongan head coach, and we've got a new story about him, Rob.
Okay, yep. So St Helens coach Christian Wolff has extended his contract with the reigning Super League champions until the end of the 2022 campaign. The 46-year-old guided Saints to their second successive grand final win in 2020 in his first season with the club. Wolff also led St Helens to their first Challenge Cup in 13 years as they beat Castleford at Wembley with the assistance of the video ref.
This is disappointing for all the neutrals, isn't it? And disappointing for people like me who are Wigan fans, because what we end up now with is another year of a boring St Helens side, but instead of the Kieran Cunningham boring St Helens side, this one knows how to win.
Well, I mean, yeah, as a neutral, obviously you look at it and you think, well, that's a good move for St Helens. He's won everything he's played in near enough already. But if you look at the Saints fans on Twitter, they do tend to complain a lot about his style of play and what have you. But
it's the same as when Wigan were winning under Wayne, when Leeds were winning under McDermott. Some of us fans just can't be satisfied.
So I'm not sure why he's only extended it 1 year, but yeah, it's a good move for him, isn't it?
Yeah, well, to me, reading between the lines, it means no NRL clubs expressed an interest for next year, and he's probably going to end up being in a sort of rolling contract position until an NRL club expresses an interest. Is the way I see it. But like you say, it is a positive move for Saints that they're maintaining their winning relationship with Wolff. Someone who used to have a winning relationship with his club, Leeds Rhinos director of rugby Kevin Sinfield, will leave the club following Sunday's match against Warrington. The 40-year-old is due to join rugby union side Leicester Tigers as their new defence coach, replacing Mike Ford. Ex-England Rugby League captain was due to depart the club in the autumn, but has agreed with chief exec Gary Hetherington to leave early. So that's just an update on the Kevin Sinfield story, really. Let's talk about people who are still involved in rugby league. Do you want to tell us what's been going on in France?
French back rower Jason Patiteri will leave Catalan Dragons when his contract expires at the end of the 2021 Super League season. The 32-year-old has been with the Dragons since joining from the NRL side Sydney Roosters in 2011 and has made 252 appearances. He was a key member of the side that won the Challenge Cup in 2018, the club's first major trophy. He's also the third highest appearance maker from the Dragons, behind former teammates Remy Castry and Greg Moyes.
Yes, it looks like he's found himself a gig at Lesignan, doesn't it, in the French competition? So he'll still be around the sport, and maybe he'll go out on a high.
I can't believe he's only 32.
No, because he doesn't look. He probably does if I put a side-by-side picture in front of me, but he doesn't seem to have looked any different for the last 10 years that he's been at Catalans.
He just seems to have been around forever, as long as...
Yeah.
Well, forever, but I mean, I suppose it is 10 years.
It's a long time. Good luck to him. Academy product prop Brad Fash has signed a new 2-year deal at Hull FC. The 25-year-old has played 100 games for the Black and White since his 2015 debut against Castleford. Fash, who has England Knights representative recognition, joined from West Hull Amateurs and came through the Early Birds youth system. That debut was that game where they played all the kids back in the Super 8s when every minute mattered, apart from when you were in the bottom half of the Super 8s.
Or if you're the Wakefield coach.
What about your favourite club, York? Your new favourite club?
Yep, York, the Wigan of the women's game, have signed young fullback Aidan McGowan from Huddersfield on loan. The Giants Academy product is in contention to make his debut for the Knights in this Sunday's Championship clash against Sheffield. McGowan, who was represented...
Oh, he's not, because that game's been called off, hasn't it?
Oh, has it?
Yeah, I was just reading just half an hour before we started. But anyway, sorry, go on.
McGowan has represented England and Ireland at academy level.
Yeah, so he'll have to wait for his debut, but getting a chance to get some first-team rugby league, because I don't think he was going to get in at Huddersfield ahead of their competition for fullback.
No, they're struggling, York, as well, aren't they? And watching them at Wembley, I was surprised because they play quite well at Wembley. I'm surprised how low they are in the league.
And signing some sort of basically unheard of academy player from a Super League club underlines their problems they've had this year. Injuries, absences. Part of that, I guess, is when you go with a dad's army squad, you can't rely on them to be fit all the time and stuff. But they've almost every week it feels like we're talking about a loan signing at York, doesn't it?
Yeah.